think it worked. I think. You can hear the guitar. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. My mic thing is in the way. Okay, so you can hear the guitar. Cool. Okay, awesome. Can you still hear me? I hope you, it looks like you can, as I'm seeing green bars. Okay. 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 So, I promised folks I'd play one of my songs, so I will attempt to do that now, and hopefully now that you can hear me, you won't wish you can't. Okay. Oh. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. That's really good feedback. Okay. Alright, here's my lyrics. Something here ain't right. Time to shed some light. Where does he go when he's not at home? Is he making out with another? Oh, I'm a super suit. Find the truth. Was it cheating? I'll find out. I'm gonna have it. Inside till the little day. Something tells me he lies when he calls me baby. And until he doesn't mean it now, he never loved me anyhow. I'm a super suit. Find the truth. Oh, find the truth. What is it cheating? I'll find out. I'm gonna have it. Signs of liberty. Okay. Alright, so I think that worked. I promised folks I'd do it, so we'll... I'm not good at live performances. That's why I record everything. But I did say I would. So, alright. So, that said, I also promised I would explain my process for how I compose. So, let me not be blasting people with this while I'm trying to talk. Alright. Okay. I think that was right. Okay. One more thing. We met at the spring fall mall, 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at... This wasn't set to monitor both inputs. Okay, so, alright. Back to what I was saying. So, we've identified that it's C. Because auto-tune didn't absolutely have a cow when I was playing the C minor, like it was like pixelated and everything. So I'll show you again what that sounded like. So this is what it sounds like when it's set to the wrong key. This is what told me it was a C minor. We met at the spring fall mall, 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at the stars, talking about this future life of ours. C minor. That much we know. Assuming that it's still C, and that it got that part right. I'm going to flip to C major and see if it likes that. Okay. We met at the spring fall mall, 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs. Thanks, auto-tune, I've identified, if I didn't already know this, that it's C major. Because it's clearly not trying to correct to something that's weird. Okay, that's what was wrong. I need it to be playing. Okay, so assuming these chords are right, we'll just say that they are. And we figured out that they match the key signature that the vocal is. I'm going to stop doing that because then it's going to play on top of the vocal. But okay, so I need to create a MIDI track. Let me explain. A lot of people don't understand the difference between MIDI and AI. So AI basically creates from a prompt something
that it's basically makes it for you. And that's different than MIDI. What MIDI does, you tell it a pitch, and like I'll show you here. Let me create a new software track. New software instrument track. And this is going to do a piano. So what I'm going to do is tell it to make me a C major chord. It's going to give me a MIDI of a C major chord, and it's going to put it on my track, and it's going to play me a C major chord. So what I need to do is go along through here.
We met at the spring fall.
That I know for a fact is a D, so that's not it. But at the end here, this should sound right.
Sunrise, when you stare into my eyes.
This should go here. So it's that the build up to the chorus is a C.
You and me feel so.
Actually, here is the build up to the chorus, where I know for a fact it's a C.
Me feel so right.
That matches. It's the right chord.
You made my feel.
So basically what I did, I can do one of two things. I can identify all the chords all the way through here, which is what I did first. So I went through and I basically lined all of these up, which, let me show you what that looks like. This is where I've put an acoustic guitar line with the chords that I determined were the at least close to the right ones on the MIDI track.
We met at the spring fall mall, 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at the stars, talking about this future life of ours. Up all night till the sunrise.
So what I need to do to make sure I've used the right chords and I know how then to play them on the guitar. So I go through here. The bottom note of a chord on MIDI and on standard music, you're going to have the root. So this is the root, which is, or the root of that chord. This is a D. So now I know this is a D. This would be a C. This is an A sharp, which is also a B flat. So now because I've used the theory, I know basically what power chord to play. Now, I can take the guitar then and go, alright, so now I know that this is a C chord or a D chord. Alright, so this is set to drop D. I have it tuned to drop D right now, and this is a standard 6-string guitar. So we know that this bottom string, open string, is a D. And if we didn't already know where the fingerings were, this is a D sharp or an E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp or A flat, B, or B flat, I'm sorry, B flat, B, C, C. No, this is C. Hang on. I forgot a sharp in there. But, hold on, why is it not playing that now? Oh, because I'm on the MIDI track. That's a MIDI track, that's why. Okay, so I need to go back up here and go to an empty voice channel. New audio track. And let me make sure it's set to the right input. Input 2 should be the guitar. And yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to put an amp simulator on here so that I have distortion. Okay, so I need to tell it, I'm going to go to my mixer again, make sure it has the Blue Cat distortion on it. So what I'm going to do is tell it, okay, I want this to sound like metal. So down here I can go to high gain and effects. I'm going to use the preset that I usually use for distortion. I like this one a lot. The light octave metal. So now it should sound like metal guitar, or at least rock. That gives you the distortion. Okay, so we've determined that this chord is a C. So that's a C. Okay, so this is in drop D. So D sharp, E flat, that's right. Anyway, I'd have to actually check. I'm just trying to quickly do it, but I know for a fact that is this. I think. Okay, so if I'm playing a series of this, so that starts out on D. Okay, that could be either an open. I think it's this one. Let me see, what did I play here? I need to double check and make sure I'm telling you the right thing. But this is what I actually played when I was testing it. So let me see if it.
Looking at the
I'm not playing the MIDI. Let me mute the MIDI. This is the actual track I recorded that I used in the song.
was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at the stars.
Let me make sure I match that. Okay, so yes, it's the dotted. And this is out of tune again. Lovely. Oh my god. Okay. That is sharp. Turn it down slightly. That's why it sounds weird. It's out of tune. This guitar is kind of infuriating because it goes out of tune so fast. But since I'm playing power chords, I need those two bottom strings to be right. So, that's the note I'm wanting. So my C is Alright, so I need to play the vocal, because what I'm trying to match is actually the vocal. That's the closest way to determine what chords need to be, is going back to this vocal. So let me play the vocal and see if I can play along with this.
We met at the spring form of 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at the stars, talking about this future life of ours. Up all night till the sunrise. When you stare into my eyes, you and me feel so right. You made my fairy tale come to life. I will never fail to stand by your side. Stand by your side. You're my fairy tale. Summertime on the lake, jet skis
Okay,
and water
so you get the
slides,
idea.
barbecue
I'm
filled
basically
plates, bonfire in the
matching by
moonlight.
ear those chords that we just were trying to figure out. I'm playing the C major scale, and I'm listening to this vocal. I kind of made myself a MIDI map of kind of what I figured it was going to be, but what the real deal was that I was actually going to do, if I was not making this in MIDI and on the guitar, that's would be how I just did it. Is mostly by ear, so that I'm just checking that I sang the vocal and what went with it. This is also how I did the bass part, because I also have the bass. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing with the bass, and I'm just listening to it, figuring out, I've played the guitar chords, what matches the guitar chords with the bass line. So if I've gone through and I've recorded all of this, and assuming that I did, which I kind of showed there how I did it, I've played my chords, like I said. So I've done this whole thing through here. So now what I would do, at the risk of breaking this, I think I'm not actually going to do it. I'm just gonna explain how I did it. So I'm gonna put the guitar back here and then explain what I did next. So now that I've got both instrumentals in here, what I was gonna do next, let me not have this inputting so you don't accidentally hear it. Well, I've got this vocal. This is a mono input. Oh, and I didn't explain what MIDI is. Let me go back. MIDI, like I said, is not the same as AI. MIDI is modified. It's basically, all MIDI is a map to pitches. So down here, for example, I've got chords. And like I was saying, the chord theory, the bottom note tells me the name of the chord. So if this is an F, that means it's an F chord. So this is the root, and this top note is the fifth. Or actually, yeah, root. So power chords are the root and the fifth, which is typically what I play in rock. On the guitar, I'm playing power chords when I'm showing you that, so the thing that's cool about power chords is they don't care about major or minor scales, they're just the note. Because all they are is the root and the fifth. So you just use knowledge of chords to do that. And so what this does is this tells the computer, okay, this is an F. I want this to sound like an F. So what I could do if I don't like the acoustic guitar, but I still like that chord, I could tell it, don't be a guitar. Let's tell it be something else, or at least a different kind of guitar. So these are my patches that I use for the MIDI. This one right here is that acoustic guitar. This is a MIDI patch from Native Instruments. It's really cool. I like this one. So it sounds like the acoustic guitar. But if I didn't want that and I wanted it to be a synthesizer, okay, I'm going to go over here and tell it for contact 8, don't be a synthesizer, or don't be a guitar. I'm going to plug in a, oh, that's not mono. MIDI is almost always patches are in stereo. You don't want them on a mono input, so I'm going to tell it actually to not be mono. It's now stereo. So now I want this to be a synthesizer but play the same pitches. That's because I changed the patch that it is. But as you can see, it's not AI created. I plugged in what chord I wanted where. The difference between AI and MIDI, MIDI is customized. You have to tell MIDI what to play. It doesn't just figure out what chord goes where. AI, basically how Suno works, is what Suno does is you type in a text prompt and you explain to Suno, hey, I want this vibe, I would like this sound here, I want, rock, this is a rock track, etc. I want my vocal to sound like a rock track. So all you do is tell Suno that, and Suno basically takes those inputs and creates a thing. So the difference between MIDI is you have to customizably tell it what pitches, what rhythm, because see, each one of these is a rhythm. So let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so this is 4/4 time. So that means there's 4 beats per measure, and each note gets 1 beat. So that makes these, if this is one measure, 1 to 2, these are quarter notes. So this is a quarter note, this is a quarter note. Each one of these is a quarter note, and it's going to play that in the quarter note rhythm. So as you can see, Suno doesn't break it down that much. I can literally pick what pitch I want, what rhythm I want, how fast it plays, what tempo it plays, just as if I was playing the guitar. Because I can also set this to be a guitar. Say I wanted this patch to play an electric guitar. So let me go back to Contact and pull up my electric guitar patch, because I do have one. So here's my choices for what this MIDI can sound like. Is I have a whole bunch of instruments. I have synthesizers, I have the guitars, pianos, all kinds of stuff. So if I want it to sound like an electric guitar, then here's my electric guitar plugin. This is Sunburst from Native Instruments. So I can tell it, hey, I want this to be an electric guitar. And I can tell it what I want that electric guitar to sound like. This is set to clean R&B. It's gonna play a certain strum line, but now it sounds like a picked guitar, like a picked plain guitar. So it's playing this picking pattern as it's making this. So now it sounds like a clean electric guitar, but it's not. Say it's not the strum pattern I want, and if I wanted distortion. So basically I can have this same strumming pattern, but tell it I want one of these like high gain garage patches. So now what happens if I play it? it plays me the same strumming pattern in a distorted electric. So I get this chord picking patterns in different style. Say I want it to strum differently, but I like that same sound and that same patch. So I go back here. This is my strum pattern, is this right here. These are my choices. So I would be like, I don't want this strum pattern. I want it to sound like rock. So here's a rock patch. In a preview, that's the strum pattern you get. Because you have it set to high gain rock school, say I want it to be the same one I just used that I liked. I like that high gain garage god. So I go back. Now it's that strum pattern, but in the distorted and the sounding style that I want. So if I liked that one, I could keep that and it would play these chords. Now typically electric guitar and rock, like I said, only plays power chord. So I would just have the root and the fifth. That's kind of one reason it doesn't quite sound the same as what I was playing, is I was just playing the root and the fifth. So, if I liked that, I could keep it. But I decided I'd rather have what I actually played. So let me go down here and find, where did I put that? This is what I actually recorded for the song. That's my live input distortion. It's not a patch. This is not me. This is audio. So I just explained how MIDI works. This is a real guitar with distortion on it. So what I'm using that's different here, this modifies an audio track. This is not made for MIDI. This is modifying a direct input from a guitar. So if I wanted to use the direct input from the guitar, I would choose this rather than the MIDI track. And the difference how it looks in Logic is, I'm going to mute this. This is an audio track. This is a MIDI track. And as you can see, I get a piano roll to use with those MIDI patches that I can make sound however I want. You know, I can make them be a keyboard, I can make them be a guitar. So basically what I did here is I programmed and I told it the pitches, the rhythm, everything else, what I want it to play when. This is MIDI. And then I can play it back. Now, drums. Since I'm not playing live drums, I'm not a drummer, I need drums for this track. So I have a couple of things I can do. I always use MIDI drums. That's another thing you can put as a patch for MIDI. So I'm going to unmute this and you can hear what it sounds like. So now I have drums. Pause. I'm going to show you how I know it's drums and how I meant it to be drums. Is I've got it set to the MIDI patch for drums. And how MIDI drums work. Each one of these MIDI notes, it's not playing a pitch, it's playing a drum. So, okay, say I wanted it to play me a kick. It matches the mapping for the kick to C0. So you can see over here in my piano roll that I have this pitch set to a C0. As you can see over here, really tiny. This is a C. I can also click on it and it will tell me it's a C0. So I come in here and I tell it, I want a kick. So wherever I want my rhythm to play a kick, I put a dot. And they can be slightly more orange or more red depending on how hard I want it to hit. For example, if I was a real drummer, this red one be like, I'm slamming it, I'm hitting it as hard as I possibly can. I'm going nuts on this drum. That's hitting it crazy hard. So that's going to be a maximum velocity. This one I want like sort of hard but a little quieter. So I'm going to set the velocity a little lower on this one. So instead of the 126, I'm going to set this to a lower value so it sounds slightly quieter. And then I've done this for each patch, and each one, say I wanted, I think the hats, I've done this really intensely, is like the hats here sound really loud or really quiet, so that you get this like pattern of the hats. And I've also figured out what pitch on the keys is a hat. So let me come over here. This is a black key. So this is an F sharp. Because, okay, so for pianos, black keys are sharps and flats. White keys are the major pitches. I don't actually play a piano, but I do know this theoretically. So, I've figured figured out that this is an F sharp pitch is where these notes go that correspond to the hat. So I play this, and it's going to give me a hat for each dot that's in this note pattern. And it's going to play it for how long I've set it to play it into this rhythm. And alright, so I started out with a crash up here. The crash maps to E. So every time I tell it to make an E, and I set it to play an E, it's going to play a crash. Same thing for the snare down here. I've identified the pitch for a snare is D0. So every time I play a D0 on the piano roll, I get a snare. And I can tell it how hard or how soft I want that snare to be. Like if I want like a fill up here. So I set them closer together, and I want it to be like really loud and like build up and be crazy, like I'm getting ready to do the chorus. So I tell it, play me this pattern, and it's gonna build up. So
We met at the spring.
so you hear like how the drum pattern changes there. It's not the same cut and dried beat. It changed because I did a fill here so that it would, signify to the listener that, hey, I'm changing my song pattern. I'm getting ready to do something different. Hang on, I need some coffee. So that's where I signal my transition. Is I told it, hey, change the pattern here a little bit. And I control how it changes, when it changes, how it repeats, because each one, I'm going to like show you how it's repeating a section. This is called a loop, which is not the same thing as a sample. Samples and loops are not the same thing. Samples are audio tracks, which are not MIDI. So say you go to Splice and you download, hey, this cool sample. Oh, this sounds really awesome. I want to put it in my project. Not this. This is MIDI, not an audio file. And it's not, a sample has been pre-recorded by someone else and can't be changed or modified. These can be modified. So this is a loop, and you can see here this little like wedge where it's like slightly indented here. That's the point at which it repeats. So if I want this same pattern to repeat here at this measure, which looks like it's at somewhere between measure 9 and 10, or actually no, it's on measure 9 because that's where the line is. So this is directly at measure 9. I want it to repeat. So I can tell it if it's just what I've dragged onto the track or what I've by hand programmed to. I can say if it's going to look like this when I put it on here. This is the initial little bit that I've programmed. I want this to repeat exactly, starting at measure 9. Now I can drag this out in a loop pattern. And it's going to repeat every time you see like one of those dips. It's going to do a repeat at that measure, and then it's going to sound like it did the first time. So I have a little fill there. I liked that fill there. I want it to do another one up here.
Eyes when you stare into my eyes.
It's identical, and each time this repeats, it plays the identical thing. Now, if I want it to do something that isn't a repeat, I make a new MIDI section. And this is like a giant fill. This is like a really big build-up. So you can see like I have all these snare hits that's like gonna go nuts. So I want this snare pattern to build up, and I don't want it to sound like this one. It plays each one of these as a snare hit, and you have like a build-up fill. So I liked this section here, and I want it to build up because I start my chorus here at measure 21. So I have an entirely different pattern here at measure 21. I've got kicks down here, I've got snares, and I've got different cymbals. Because up here now I've got a ride. And I tell it, okay, I want this ride here, because I've identified this MIDI note, which is, I hope I didn't move it, that's a C sharp. So C sharp 3 maps to a hi-hat, or I'm sorry, a ride. So I want this ride, and I'm telling it, okay, play a ride note every time there's one of these lines. And I want a giant crash when the measure starts. So at measure 21 to signify, oh, hey, I'm changing from the chorus or the verse to the chorus. I want a really giant crash. So I tell it, hey, play me a crash here. This is where I want it. I want it to last for this long before it goes away. So I like hear this crash and it's like, oh my god, I'm changing sections. So you hear that. Here's what it sounds like when I have all of it put together.
You made my fairy tale come.
There's the crash, and you can see why I was doing that is that's coming into the Fairytale chorus, and so you're getting like this really big change, and it signifies what you're doing. So I play this pattern, and then I come up to this measure, which would be measure 28. So at measure 28, I'm changing patterns again. I can actually split MIDI pieces, so like this one's not the same MIDI piece. I made a new one here. I can actually do that here if I want to. Sometimes I do this for convenience's sake so I can see where transitions are. So I can say, hey Logic, split me at playhead here and give me a new section that's not connected. Which I then, if I was going to repeat this, it would repeat from measure 28, not back here. So this is its own section now. And I can see this is my fill. So this is my build up to my fill to change from chorus to the rap piece that I did. So
You're my fairy tale. Summertime on the lake.
So that's where you get that fill, is I just made that division here, and I put in all these beats. And so now I'm going back to this initial beat pattern that I was using for the verse. I can, if I want to, let me make another track so you can watch how I do this. Command D. So now I've created another track, I've duplicated it. I want to drag this whole thing down and make another copy of it. So I'm going to tell it Option Hold. I've got a plus sign, so now it's going to copy and paste that here. And I have an actual duplicate, the whole thing right here. So if I played this, it would play the exact same thing on both tracks. So I've got these MIDI drums here. I want to copy and paste this loop. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to kill all the rest of this stuff and pretend it was never here. Just this. So I'm going to make sure it's not looped, so it's not a long piece. I'm going to do that same copy and paste shortcut, which is Option and hold it. Actually, I don't need to copy it. I just need to hold Option and drag it, and it will make me the same thing in another piece. So we determined we want this for the verse again. So I'm going to take this over and line it up with where I had the verse start. So here's this drum pattern that I wanted to use for the verse, and I can put it here so that it's basically a copy of what I had at the beginning. And so now it's going to match. So I'm going to kill this. I'm going to kill this. And this is a duplicate of this section. Now I get to the bridge. This is another chorus repeat here. So this is chorus repeat. Now I'm like at the bridgey part where it's a different section. So that's the chorus repeat. And then here's the next part.
Whoa, whoa. I see you after a long day. This is a treat. You make my stress melt away like the ice from a leaf. This here is a long play. I will never leave.
I got a different drum pattern here. And it looks to me like I copied the same thing I was using for the verse because I liked that for the rap piece. So I did the same drag and paste thing here. So I pulled it over here and I duplicated it. Now if I wanted to make it different, say I wanted the ride or something, I could tell it to do that. Like if I wanted a ride, we determined back here, if I open this up, pull it into the piano roll, this is where I had the ride. So, oh my god, car outside. That was really friggin' loud. Okay, so I need to find where my MIDI went. It's at this measure. So I'm pulling this in where my playhead is. And of course, if you guys have any questions, like feel free to stop me and like be like, hey, why did you do that? Or what did you just do? But yeah, feel free to chat and ask me tons of questions. I can probably answer them. So, alright, so we determined what was the pitch for the ride. So this is verse. I think this is chorus actually. I have to remember what I did. So this had a ride. Did it not? Okay. I think it did. Hold on. Yeah, because there's the crash that I did that signified I switching from the verse to the chorus. So these are the ride. What pitch went with the ride? I can look over here and go, all right. So this was, I can make this better and easier to see. That's C sharp. We determined is a ride and maps to the ride key. So, all right. So say I wanted this bridge over here to have a ride. I'm going to duplicate this and show you what that looks like. So I'm going to take this again and pull this up here so I have a duplicate so I don't mess up my initial pattern. But taking this for example, I'm going to put my playhead here, and we determined that was a C sharp 3 that was playing the ride. So I look over here, it's the black key. And I'm going to create notes and put it on a black key C sharp pitch. Did it? Maybe it was. Why did it do that? Oh, because I have the wrong thing. That's not right. Okay. So this and the C sharp is the ride. So this I've got assigned to a ride. So if I want this bridge part to have a ride, for example, I can create a ride pattern here. Not saying it's going to actually line up. I'm just doing this as an example. Oh, come on. Let me try it. So, okay, I've got 2 ride notes now. So it's going to hit the ride every time I push that button, which is that C sharp. So I tell it in the MIDI, hey, play me the C sharp.
I see you after a.
Now you hear in the background there's a ride. So if I want that ride pattern, I can always copy and paste what I just did. I can highlight it, copy it, and like I was saying earlier, option drag. So I'm going to option drag this, and option drag this. So now I've got 6 rides, 6 hits for the ride. I've custom programmed this.
I see you after a long day.
So now we have a ride in that section because we just told it to. And that then is for this rap piece. Because we're getting to the end of the song, so we've like built our excitement, and we're kind of like wanting to like, hey, this is the end of the song. This is the really good part. So we've gotten excited and we put this ride in here. But I didn't actually have this initially programmed in the track I released. Let me pull this back up so you can see how this corresponds to the vocal. So I have
This is a treat. You make my stress melt away like the ice from a leaf. This here is a long play. I will never leave.
And that's just the drums and the vocal isolated. If I want my guitar to also play along with this, I can take what I recorded as the audio track for the guitar down here, because we already recorded this a while ago. And I was showing, okay, this audio form is the guitar, which it recorded pretty quietly, so this audio form is really small. But it is an audio form. This is, right, this is not a MIDI track. This is actual guitar. So where that drum pattern was, I'm going to scroll all the way up here. So I want to see what was happening at this measure with the guitar mixed in with everything else. So this is measure 67, which is where this drum pattern shifted. So I'm going to go down here to my guitar and see what's going on at measure 67. And now we'll be able to hear the guitar too.
I see you after a long day. This is a treat. You make my stress melt away like the ice from a leaf. But this here is a long play. I will never leave.
At that measure. So if we like this, we can go, hey, I'm keeping this. I've made a note over here that this is what I want to keep. So what I would do next is, since I don't want to break things, I won't show the bass too because I keep breaking everything. I mean, I probably could, but... So I've played along and I've got all of the things recorded. Everything that I want. And then, let me back up. So my friend who made this track in AI created this, and he basically gave it this prompt and was like, hey, I want it to sound like X. And so he typed in the description and the lyrics of what he wanted this to sound like. So I can isolate those tracks by telling them to solo. They're stereo tracks, but they're audio. Where's the rest of it? I think this is the original guitar. No, that's my guitar. Where did I put the guitar stem? I probably deleted it. Oh no, here's the original. So let me like drag these up here so it's easier to see. Crap, I didn't mean to do that. So let me select these 3 pieces. I can hold command. That's not command. Or I can highlight them. Okay, so let me move these tracks up here so it's easier to see. so that they're next to where they were at. So this is the original stuff that Zach sent me. These were the stems he gave me. So here's the synth. This track can go up here alongside of these so I can make sure I'm hearing the right thing. So there's the synth that he sent me. Here's the original bass. So these are all the original stems that the thing made out of the AI. This is what Suno created. So if I isolate them, I'm trying to make sure I've got the right ones. There's the Suno drums. There's the Suno bass, the Suno synth. I don't know where I put the original Suno Vox. I think it's up the top. Yeah, lead vocals. Okay, so this was the original Suno created vocals. So I think if I have this set right, it's going to play all of the tracks that Zach sent me that Suno made together. I've got these soloed. So here's what it sounded like when Zach sent this to me. This is what his initial track did. And this is what I made the vocals from, as I was trying to duplicate this. So I sang it as close to this as I could, with a few exceptions. But the little AI girl is singing it, so this is what she was singing. This is what she was singing. So here she's singing the same lyrics, and she's using that melody. So when I sang it, let me mute her so you don't hear her. So that was a little AI girl. I'm muting that, so you want to hear what I actually did. This is up here. This is what I recorded, I think. Is this what I recorded? I can't tell what track is what.
1999.
Yes. Okay. So as you can hear, I tried to match that AI pitch as much as I could with my own vocal, and I was trying to duplicate it. So this is what I got.
We met at the spring formal 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time.
That was my of the AI. I created that. And we had these drums down here that I just showed you how I made those custom. I didn't even take the original ones and really do anything with them. I just made this from scratch. So I'm going to put this up here with what I recorded so that it's easier to figure out what was going on. So here's my main vocal, and here's the drum pattern. So basically what I did, and where's my guitar? I think this is the guitar I played. Yeah. Okay, so this was the guitar that I decided to actually record because I tracked it from that vocal that I recorded so that it would line up. So now I've got these three pieces of stuff that I recorded and created. And then I can play them side by side to what Zach made. And so I ended up with this.
We met at the spring formal 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our backs, looking at the stars, talking about this future life of ours. Up all night till the sunrise. When you stare into my eyes.
That's what I got, minus the bass. I'll have to figure out where did I record the bass. I think I did it in the other file that I moved this to, because I made a second file so that I could not lose everything here, because I actually made this like an absolute bomb of a mess. So let me close this file and open the one I kept. So that's what I kept. I'll show you. I'm gonna have to pull it up out of my files. So let me go in here to my files where I keep everything. I keep them on a separate hard drive. This is where I organize all of the stuff I've made. So under Angel Rec, here's my audio DAW files. These are all my Logic files. So I take these DAW files and I look, okay, here's Fairytale. So here's all the DAW files I actually ended up with. And I think the one I finally finished with and sent and was actually playing and exported was this one. So I'm going to click on this and open it. Because this is going to have all the pieces that I made and minus the AI foo. So I don't need the AI foo anymore. I don't care about that anymore. So here's what I ended up with when I finished it. I've got the bass that I recorded on my bass, which is direct audio with the Blue Cat distortion, I think. Actually, no, I had it on the bus. Over here, this is the bass bus that I routed out. So I've got the bass left and right, because they are both mono. Basically, everything I record with the guitars and the vocals is going to record in mono. So if I want it to be stereo, I have to make a duplicate. So I have both of these bass tracks, the left and right channels, same thing with the guitar. So these were the guitar tracks that I converted into stereo. Same thing with the vocals. Guitar, I usually pan harder left and right because I want it to be wider in the stereo image. So basically what I did is I panned the left part of the guitar left. So I have this like circle over here that tells it where, like, in the stereo image I want this to be. So I want this one to be panned far left. So I dragged this over here and made it -64. This one I wanted to be panned all the way to the right. So I took this and I told it, hey, pan these to the right. Go all the way over. So I get, if I solo the guitar bass, you'll hear that it's wide and on each side. Maybe. Because I had so that's now a stereo version of the guitars. And I'm hearing equivalent amounts of audio on both sides of my headphones. So I have the left channel version and stereo. Then when I bust it over here, I took it over here to this guitar bus. That's now a stereo bus. So I used stereo plugins. And what I did was, since they were two mono inputs, I wanted them to be identically processed. So I told this, hey, do this in stereo, but do it on the bus rather than the individual track. Because where I routed it to the bus is now stereo and has both of them inputting it. So I've got the stereo track that I mixed to go in the final mix. And I've done this with the guitar, the vocals, and the bass. Now remember the MIDI drums. I made the drums with the plugin. So that was in MIDI. MIDI by default is almost always already in stereo, so I don't have to worry about routing it twice and doing the mono routing. So it's already in stereo, so I can just route it over here and not even worry about it. I don't think I even made a bus for it. I just left it over here. So I have that MIDI. Now, what I did for the synthesizer part, remember those chords that I did initially? I made sure they lined up and were matching to the chords I played on the guitar. So, that said, let me unmute them. I have two different synths here. I did both a pad and a lead. So, here's what they sounded like. And I took the same chords that I played on the guitar and inputted them into this MIDI. So like I was showing you before, I've got the chord structure set up here in the MIDI to play exactly what I played on the guitar. So basically, if this MIDI is showing me, alright, this is an F. So I needed to play an F to match what was on the guitar and the vocals. So I made this lineup. So this is the same identical chord that's up here. And I already kind of went through the chord theories. The bottom note on any of those chords is the name of the chord, and it's the root. And then the top is the fifth. Power chords only play the root and the fifth. So the thing about power chords is I don't care about minor or major scales. They're always the same. So an F is an F. An F sharp is an F sharp, even if the key signature is different. It only matters what the bass pitch is in that root. And I think I just moved that track. I did not mean to move that track. Did I move that track? No, I don't know what I did. Hang on. Does this match? I hope I didn't screw up my own thing. No, okay, that was supposed to be dragged over. Okay, so I have these synthesizers that I designed that because they're in MIDI, they're already stereo, so I don't need to duplicate them. So I have them in their own place down here. And I know when Zach first heard this, he was like, oh, hey, you just reused the synth from the original thing that I sent you, the Suno piece. No, I just showed you how I modified it. So that isn't the same thing as what Sack made. I made that separately. So, this is all the pieces together. And I can tell them, these are the pieces I liked and I wanted to be the final song. So what I ended up with was this.
We met at the spring form of 1999.
That logic got screwed. Okay, so getting them all to play together in the together makes up the final song. Now, when I go to mix this, when I first recorded it, the vocal didn't have any effects on it at all. So like I was talking about earlier, these are mono, left and right. If I want them to be identical, I have to go over here to the bus where I routed them. Where did I do that? Oh, over here, I think. Yeah, okay. So this is the 2 tracks, and then I made a summing stack so I could automate the volume as I needed it to for both tracks. So I wanted this quieter for the vocals up here, but I wanted it louder here because the instrumentals like go nuts in the chorus, and so you can't hear the vocals. So this is automation. This tells Logic, play this volume here, increase it here. This line up here is louder. This is softer because I've got this. This is I've set this automation to automate the volume. So that's gonna control this volume. And basically what I did was tell Logic, okay, make me a master track just of the vocals. And I can use that automation on that summing stack track so that it modifies the volume of both mono inputs and both sides at the same time, the same way. And that's basically what that bus does. So I wanted this to go out, but I don't want it to go to the same bus as the rest of these. I want the buses to be individually controlled. So, for example, the guitars. I want the guitars to be able to be modified together the same way I just did the vocals, so that I have one place for guitars. And then I can use effects on both guitar tracks. So this is the guitar bus. I told it to use stereo on the distortion. So I got this distortion here. And then I put auto-tune on it just to make sure I got the pitches right down to the exact thing. So I've actually put this for an instrument auto-tune, which is instrument, C major, same thing as vocals. But I didn't use it on the vocals. So I used it there. Ozone is basically a mastering plugin. So what I did here, this is kind of the mastering for the individual guitar track. I love this preset for huge guitars, so I always pick this for my distorted guitars, because what it does is make a giant stereo image of it, so it's really wide, and it feels and sounds like it's surrounding you. It's like all the way around. So I like this preset. So let me show you what it sounds like with it and what it sounds like without it. So this is with it.
We met at the spring form of 1999. We were young, feeling amor.
Now, let me turn it off. So that turned off Ozone entirely.
We met at the spring form of 1999. We were young, feeling immortal, like there was no winter time. Laying on our back, looking at the stars, talking about this future.
It's kind of like really tiny to hear, but I can hear it, so that's why I did that. So these are set to stereo. Now if I'm dealing with the bass, same thing. I've modified the bass to have its own distortion from the Blue Cat thing. Same thing with auto-tune, and then I chose Neutron instead of Ozone, which is also, I tend to use Neutron for buses and instrumentals by themselves, and Ozone for like the synthesis of everything. You can use either one either way. I just happen to like that preset that's in Ozone. For Neutron, I tend to like this for bass, because it's got this setting for thick bass guitar that sounds amazing, so I like that one. I've got it set to that for the individual buses. Now, if I want to take all of the instrumentals together, separate from the vocals, separate from the drums, I have this master track for that I have set to instrument out. So this is gonna play, if I solo this is gonna play all of the instrumentals without the drums or the vocals. Kind of delay on that. I don't know why I messed up the guitars there. It's not supposed to delay like that. But I want to affect all of these tracks at the same time. So what I did was I put Ozone on all of them together. And I used its kind of like smart detect thing. It's basically AI mastering. And I told it, hey, learn this pattern and make me a preset. This is the only thing I ever used anything automatic for is Ozone. So I told it, hey, make me this mixing and mastering setup. So it found this. This is what it found when I played the audio, and this is what it came up with. So I decided, hey, I like this. I'm going to leave it alone. If I hated it, I could tell it, hey, learn again. And half the time, it gets the genre wrong and completely derps, and I have to tell it manually, no, it's a rock song, or no, really, it's pop. And then I have to make it think again. So I usually have to do that a couple of times before it does what I want. Which is why some of my older mixes are terrible. I was doing a bunch of stuff weird like that. So, I have all of this together. I didn't put effects on the things that were MIDI. And I only just recently figured out why that doesn't work. MIDI instruments, like I was showing you back here. Let me pull these up again. So this synthesizer. Or if I was using that acoustic guitar, this synthesizer here, the Polymax, is already stereo for one thing, and it already comes with these effects on it. It's already got the modded FX. It's got chorus on it. It's got reverb, and over here is like all of the effects that are already on it. Same thing with the drums. Let me show you about the drums, because the drums, same thing. These drums are already dialed in inside the plug-in itself. So like it's got over here, it's got this, and in the mixer, I'm trying to remember where the mixer settings, I think. So here you have like all of the mapping and everything. Settings. Where's the mixer? I don't remember where the mixer is. But you can tell it like, I want the snare loud, or I want the kick loud, or whatever, and it puts its own processing on here. And it already has figured out what it should be EQ'd as, what it should be, all of that mess. So I didn't realize this when I first started mixing, that it already has its all of its necessary effects on it, and I was dumping more on, and so I was basically double, triple, quadruple processing things, and I didn't realize that I shouldn't do that, and it sounded completely horrible, which is why some of my older mixes are just god-awful, as I ended up with this absolute bomb of stuff. So these drums are already right, so I don't think I even bust them, because I didn't want them in the instrumental track. And I actually didn't use them in the master track either. I just left them alone to do their thing. So this master track and this instrumental out, I mixed with all of the things. The instrumental out is all of the instrumentals. The master track includes the vocals, but not the drums. So that has vocal processing on it too, which is over here. I routed this through to the stereo output. Or actually it's bus 11. So bus 11 was also the instrumental out. So this is my master track here. Now, when it outputs with all the effects on it, I get the final product. And that's pretty much what I sent SAC, and what they played on the stream was that. And so if I wanted to export this, I could do it one of two ways. I could export it in uncompressed audio, which is waves, or I could do slightly lossy MP3. It's hard to even tell the difference versus lossless versus not lossless, the original. It's barely audible. The main thing is file size and like how big it actually is when you're done. So like how you end up with Oh god, I need to get ready and get off of here. I just realized what time it is. But that kind of gives you like an overview. We got to the end, so that kind of gives you like an overview of how I got from the AI created stems to where I made this thing myself, and why it's not the same thing, why it's custom designed, is all the stuff I just did. So that is how I made it. That's my process. I tried to play Super Sleuth and didn't do awesome. I'll try that again next stream. But that kind of outlines how I made this track. It's kind of a little different each time I make a song, but that kind of gives you the general idea. But I seriously need to get out of here because I have something I have to go to at 1 o'clock, and it's 12:15. So I better skedaddle. But thank you everyone for watching and coming along with me for this, and my absolute fight with my audio to try to get this thing working was ridiculous. But I did eventually fix it, as far as I know. So, that said, I'm going to take off, but thanks again for watching, and I'll be live again next Monday at 7 my time. Hey, thank you, Johnny. I'm so glad you came. That was really great. Thanks for following along. So, I'm out, guys. Have a good one.